even though you don't see the typical hands-on verbs here, construct or troubleshoot, you have a wall of identify and interpret. I would use hands-on. You can't prepare for an interpret the same way you do for a describe. Try doing some netconf and restconf against devices and see how it fails. Try doing some Ansible with a typo in your playbook and see how it fails or see how it succeeds. That's the sort of trial and error that will prepare you for interpret.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another installment of our CCNA Automation Prep Series. I'm Quinn, he's Francois, and today we're diving into Domain 5. And I know we talked about 4 kind of being all over the place. I feel like Domain 5 has a couple of key themes there, but it doesn't. I still don't feel like connective tissue. So maybe you can help me kind of put sense to all this.
For me, when I look at this, I see a few words that really pop out. I mean, it helps that some of them are, all uppercase, like netconf, redconf, YAG. But this one is about tooling. It really is about how you do automation. There's not a ton of Python in this one. It's not a very Python centric. It's about the open source tools mostly that people use, and a lot of people get started with to do automation. And this is a 20%, so this is the slightly larger size of domains for this exam. And I think it goes back and forth between the APIs that exist in our controllers and also the device level automation. And that's something that that is important to really understand in this exam is when do you do device level versus controller level? When do you automate Catalyst Center versus iOS XE? Do you want to talk a bit about some of the tools and protocols in more details that are involved in this?
The big things that stand out to me in this are like, to your point, the open source tooling. We have the Ansible, we have the Terraform. It also briefly touches on some of the capabilities of Cisco NSO, or Network Services Orchestrator. That's a little bit, I mean, NSO is definitely a heavier lift, and so being aware of it is good, but being able, you kind of see that connectivity here. So like in exam topic 5.6, where we describe the capabilities of Ansible, Terraform, and NSO, but you can see that 5.8 links, and you've got to identify a workflow being automated using an Ansible playbook. So it's not just, there's a lot of correlation between some of those higher level objects of describe here that, you would say in that Bloom's taxonomy, but there's also some interprets or being able to understand the construction of these different automation routines and how what the desired impact or what the effect is going to be, right? So there's a lot of connection between, hey, here's this high level general idea, but we're going to dive into a very specific workflow that's being automated there. So in this one, I feel it's kind of important, like we said in domain 4, the hands-on pieces will also really help you here. Like, yes, we may talk about being able to describe the benefits, but by doing and building an Ansible playbook, you're going to understand what those benefits are going to be. And you mentioned some of the device level stuff here. And I know that previously in other domains, a lot of it was focused on our controllers. So like our Meraki and Catalyst Center and things like WebEx and others. How does the device level kind of change the way we have to think about these things here?
Some of these protocols, they're going to require their own labbing in a different way. Specifically in netconf, restconf, you're going to need to have some probably iOS XE devices in your lab. You're going to need to know how to connect to them. I'm a big fan of CML Personal for this. That's probably the easiest way to get access to those protocols. The DevNet Sandboxes also are good for some of this. But the thing that really I think is key is, even though you don't see the typical hands-on verbs here, construct or troubleshoot, if you look at 5.7 through 5.14, you have a wall of identify and interprets. And like you were saying, Quinn, I would use hands-on. You can't prepare for an interpret the same way you do for a describe, because you're going to be shown something that if you haven't seen before, reading about wouldn't have been enough. It's going to get some hands-on. Try doing some netconf and restconf against devices and see how it fails. Try doing some Ansible with a typo in your playbook and see how it fails or see how it succeeds. That's the sort of trial and error that will prepare you for interpret. I think I think that's how you prepare for this Quinn too, right?
Yeah, and the other interesting piece here is you mentioned 5.7 through 5.14. Well, 5.9 is identify a workflow being automated by a bash script. So sometimes these things also or certain um, tools or components drift across domains. And so like in domain 4 we were dealing with Docker files and bash scripting and things like that, but more at the how do we use this in a CI/CD pipeline. To your point, in domain 4's video, when we were talking about the language of automation is bash, well, now we've got to put that into practice. And so just because you don't see something in a domain does not mean that it won't come up in another domain. And so you have to treat these exam topics before you start your studies. Make sure you have that process map and see if you can start finding these little connection points between all these different exam topics, even across domains, because that's going to aid in your studies. If you have a describe or a compare in an earlier domain, but then you've got to interpret or identify or configure in a later domain, well, by taking care of that configure, you're going to get a lot of that stuff in the earlier domains as well. So building a strategy around how we're going to study for these and finding those connective pieces is really important in this one as well.
Yeah, the same is true with APIs. We mentioned APIs a couple domains ago. Here in 5.7, 5.14, we're doing some more advanced things. We're stitching things together. So yeah, this is one of those where this is a deceptively important module, I think, that actually requires quite a bit of hands-on practice. This is one of the one that will be the most applicable for your day-to-day life after that.
Yeah, and if you study for it and you do it well, a lot of the it brings together a lot of those previous domains. I don't want to say that this is the ultimate domain or the domain boss, if you will, from video games, but a lot of the skills that we're practicing earlier on are really going to come to a head here. And so, to your point, getting that hands-on experience is going to be really critical.
Yeah, there's definitely a theme across everything. Great. I think that covers basically what you need for section 5. Thank you and see you next time.